Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Rebecca Brown. I am the ESSER Program Manager here at OPI. And joining me today is Jolene, and I will let Jolene introduce herself here in just a second. But we are presenting on amendments and cash requests kind of from a clerk's point of view today. We have Jolene here to give some perspective that the folks at OPI can't necessarily offer, because she is sitting in the clerk or the business manager side of things, and she can give some real targeted advice and tips and tricks for clerks and business managers to use. So if you at any point in this session have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will have an open question and answer time at the end of the session. But with that being said, let's go to the next slide. And Jolene, I will let you introduce yourself.
Hi, as Rebecca said, I'm Jolene Tolinar. I'm the Corvallis School District Clerk and Business Services Director. I'm just here today to sort of give you what I had to end up doing for the ESSER grants, because they became so hard to navigate and manage as far as my end and doing cash requests and that sort of thing. So I brought my little favorite tool and just wanted to show it to everybody and put it out there in case people would like to use it.
All right, next slide, please. Just a general overview of what we're going to go over today. Jolene is going to drive for a little while. She will show you this really cool tool that she has developed that helps her work with the ESSER grants, and show you some tips and tricks in Excel. And then after that, I will kind of circle around to some eGrants tips, as well as some resources that we have on the OPI website. And then, like we said, we'll have question and answer at the end. Next slide, please. All yours, Jolene.
Okay, well, thank you. And I think this slide kind of sums it up as far as I've been with Corvallis for about a year now, and I was with Florence for about 5 years. And so as ESSER came on board, I've had to navigate 2 districts and 2 sets of, those big grants and how to do that. So eventually, after banging my head against the wall several times, I decided to just give up and track everything. So I developed a spreadsheet that helps me do that, and I want to share that with you right now. So I'm going to share my screen, and this is sort of exactly where we were. This is the training we're talking about now. This workbook that you're looking at is available at the bottom of your screen if you just scroll down. This is a tool. It is by no means my perfect thing. You are more than welcome to do whatever you want to it. At our first training earlier today, we did find an error, so you'll get to watch me fix that again. It seemed like it was good to show that even I, who created this, sometimes have issues with it. So the sample workbook starts really with the summary and the tabs that are here at the bottom. And what I found is, and I'm going to go to the grant tracking, is that when I start a new grant, and now, most of us are long into the ESSER stuff, I print the GAN, which is the, I think, Rebecca, can you hear me? I think it's the grant. What does GAN stand for again?
Grant Award Notification.
Thank you. So the grant award notification, and that's in eGrants in the OPI website, and she's going to show you where that is at the end of the presentation. I also print my original budget as it was set up in the beginning, because it's a good reference for me to know where I'm starting from. Then I set up one of these workbooks, and for each of my ESSER 2, ESSER 3, I have one for each of them. And that's what this is all about. So after we talk about that, I'll show you how I do each one of these step 4 and 5. In any of these things, you'll see that I almost always have some sort of process note tab. And if you follow my cursor way down to the bottom, this is no different. As I do anything in these workbooks, I track it and just leave myself little notes with dates. And this is just for me. But I'm sure any clerk that's going to take this training is constantly interrupted by somebody in the middle of a thought process. And when I'm working with these grants, that's sometimes really difficult. So if I have to stop what I'm doing, I make a note, just to myself. Hey, don't forget to do something. This one is kind of funny because it's like, do this before you do that and fix this. And, and I know it just helps me reduce the amount of time that I have to spend regrouping and remembering where I was when I get back to it 3 or 4 days later or weeks or whatever. So this is the summary that I created for this workbook with the blue and green tabs and the process tab. And this is my grant summary. I just keyed in the names of the grants that I wanted. I'm using this for ESSER 2. I put in the project numbers as a quick reference and my original grant amounts. And what you can see when I click on these is that this field, this D4, which is this field, up here in this function bar, you'll see equals ESSER 3 base C3. What that means is that this field is actually linked to this ESSER 3 base tab, cell C3, right there. So what I alluded to earlier is let me back up. Each time I bill to eGrants, I put the amount in here so that if my superintendent or somebody else wants to know how much I've billed and what I have left, it's a real nice, quick reference guide for me to see what do I have left. And so each time I do a cash request, I put it in here and I put when I build it. This you could use, I use this as the date that I did the cash request. You could also change this and say build through or activity through. So you can use this spreadsheet really in any way you want. For me, I do it the date I did the cash request. It's because I have another spot that I'm tracking what the date the cash request was through. So what you see here is this is linked to that S3 base. Now, really, in a perfect world, when I did this cash request in December, it's also linked to B9 of that ESSER base tab. But this number isn't. And I really don't like to call hard code any cell if I can help it. Because then if I expect it to be kept current, it won't necessarily update itself. So really what I'd like to see in here, and if you've pulled this up, you might want to say equals, and then open this tab and come to this cash request amount, which is N9. You can see it up here. You can see I've clicked on it over here. I'll zoom in a little bit. Oh, it's not going to let me. Anyway, well, maybe it will. Okay. Anyway, N9, and then I'm going to hit enter. And what happens is this cell now has this reference. And so it's filling in that amount. And each one of these I found later that I had hard coded, and I really don't want to do that. I really want these amounts in there. So I'm going to do it for all 3 of my grants. I'm just going in and recording those cash requests. The rest of them seem to be correct. I'm just clicking through. Well, that one I missed too. So this is the 519 cash request. So I'm going to go and, well, that's nice. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So this spreadsheet is, and if you want an updated one, I can certainly update it for you. But I think it's good to learn how these things work. I don't think it hurts to sort of navigate this. So you can see now this one is all linked with the amounts, and it should conceivably match what I've got in here. Oh, thank goodness. Okay. So this is my amounts. This is my summary. So this summary just keeps track of total build. I've got my original project amounts, and this little formula is tracking. I should make sure it goes all the way down. This little formula is tracking all my total builds, and it's just a plus, 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 plus. And so I've got a total, and this is just the total minus the original. Just a real quick way to kind of know where I'm at. So what I do when I am actually doing a new grant is I take one of these sheets and I make a new one. So that the way that you do that is you hit move or copy. So I come down here to the tabs, I hit move or copy, and I just hit create copy. And Excel will create a brand new one for me. I just would name it, we'll just put this as sample. And so you can just, copy over the top of it, change the amounts, change all of that. And I still have this one. This one is still linked in the same way that that one is, but I might end up relinking it. So, but that's just, I wanted to make sure that I remembered to show you guys how to add a new tab. You have to be careful in deleting tabs. You don't want to delete your originals. Anyway, so here is what I use for each grant. I put the project number in, so it's right there. I've got an original amount, and this can take a bit of populating, and I key this stuff right off of eGrants. If I put an amendment in, I put the changes. This shows me that I've now increased this by 30,000 and I've decreased it by 30,000. These formulas are very movable. If it seems a little complicated, you can always email me and check. But I mean, you conceivably could just say, just key in the new amounts and put total allocations and not have it link anything. Just have this be your total. So this is just my tracking to make sure my amendments equal 0 and that when I did them or what I did to it, because sometimes that can be a little hard to find in eGrants. So this again is just my cash request and my salaries and benefits and my other purchase services and supplies. What's happening is this is tracking at the very bottom down here. This is tracking how it changes and what I have left as well. And that's really helpful for me by grant, because then I know, well, I might need to do a cash request. I might need to move some of this money. Down below here is just my notes. This is just me, whatever I'm thinking about, whatever I need to remember, sort of in-depth notes. And I just do that for each grant, and it tracks everything pretty well. And so this tool is what I use to be able to make sure that I'm not overbilling, or I know where I'm at with all of the different grants. And let me see, did I forget anything? Let's see. So I want to show you what happens with a cash request. And so I'm going to move down into these last two tabs. So the cash request directions, I usually pull an expenditure by date by project code into Excel from Black Mountain. I check my cash to make sure that it balances with that, because it can be off very easily. And so then I just pull a full expense report. It looks like this. I had to add this top because I had deleted that. But, Black Mountain will put its little date in the report and all of that. I just pull an expenditure report. I name my project codes to match my program codes if I can. It just saves me one less thing to think about. So I added this column. So when you pull it out of Black Mountain, it looks like this, right? This information. And what I normally do is I will start thinking, okay, what do I have in eGrants that I can bill? And what is in Black Mountain? So the first thing that I do is I add this row or this column, I apologize. And what that does is that this tracks my cash requests as I do them, so that I can backtrack into eGrants and see what's already billed. And basically the way that works, and the way a filter works, which is one of my favorite tools with Excel, is if this is your report that comes out of Black Mountain, the first thing I do is I add a line, and these were all blank when I pulled it, so this just sits out in M. Then I come over here and I highlight row 4, which is my descriptions and all of that. Now up here in my ribbon, and if your ribbon doesn't show it, you can just do the view and make it show it. There's this filter button, which is really kind of scary until somebody taught me about it. So you hit the filter and these little arrows come up in each row. And the neat thing about that is what you find is that it actually puts these in order, whatever's in that row. So for me, when I'm using eGrants, most of the time what I want to know is, let's just say I'm going to use instruction. This function code 1000 is my instruction code. And then I can go objects. Okay, I just want to see salaries in instruction. So what you'll see here is I filtered in 2 different ways. And then it just brings me the one set of data in my Excel spreadsheet that I pulled that fits the criteria of instructional salaries. And most clerks out there probably are aware that anything in the 100 series is salaries, and the 1000 series is instruction. So what I have here is I have the instructional salaries that were billed to this grant. during the period of time that I've asked. In this case, this was through last June. Now, the funny thing, or the fun thing is, now that I've got this all sorted, I can just highlight this 4 boxes, and way down here in the right-hand corner, it'll tell me the sum of these 4 boxes, which is 22250. It'll tell me an average and how many things are in my filtered data. So now, as you can see, this was originally blank. I'm going to copy this. So when I started this spreadsheet, it looked like this, nothing here. Well, once I figure out that I want this to be one of the things that I put in the eGrants categories, it's $22,250. I label it like that. Cash request 1, $22,050 at $22,250. Also, there's this little dot right over here on the very, very edge of my box that allows me to pull it down through just the filtered things. So what I have now is I have a label. And if I ever need to find this again, which I always do and can't remember, I can filter it and I can select by that particular amount, which is how I often end up looking at eGrants. And there it is. There's my $22,250. And here's what I billed to it. And that helps me a lot because the next time I bill, I always double check myself to make sure I'm not billing something twice. And so I just work my way through that. You can come back here into, you just hit unfilter, sort of lets the whole thing go. Again, I did it wrong, so hang on. If I hit that line over 4, I'm clicking right there. I hit filter. I'm going to do it again. And this time I'm going to do that 1000 function code. But I'm also going to do the object codes, my benefits object codes. So now I have benefits. My only hope is that it's going to be 3927. And if you look way down here on the right-hand side, it is in fact 3927. And this was me labeling it when I put in my cash request so that I could find it again if I ever needed to, if my auditor ever asks. So that's just my little trick for working with Excel spreadsheets and how I do my cash requests. Let's see. So I I save a new file, right? Every single cash request, it gets its own file. I often will just put it by itself. It isn't attached to the summary. And I will just save it as its own cash request. The more delineated I get, the better it is to find it later. We just talked about the filtering. And if you have questions about that or you want a little bit more on the training, feel free to email me. I'm available all the time and I love to help. It makes life so much easier. And then we talked about labeling each line, which is what we did here. And eventually you have something that looks like this. If you didn't make a mistake and transpose anything, it won't have that little note. SB for me is should be. It's where I transposed. Sorry about that. Anyway, and if you want to see the filter, it would literally show you the entire cash request. Let me make this bigger. And that's my whole cash request. So that'll tell me exactly how much it was and when it was and what was in what category, which is super helpful for me to figure out where I am with my cash request. So there was a couple of other tips I wanted to give everybody. The one was the process notes. Don't forget to use those. Another one is that when I'm using Excel, I've noticed in Mayfairs and in eGrants, occasionally it will want my LEA number, and my LEA number starts with a 0. And when I type my LEA number into Excel, it takes the 0 away. I really want it to look like the 0731, but it comes out 731. So the trick is you put an apostrophe in front of it, and then Excel will hold the number. It'll give you a little error message that says this is a number. But my experience has been uploading this into Mayfairs and when I've had to use it in other places, it doesn't seem to mind that I've got this little error. It just wants to upload it correctly, and you need to have that extra digit in there. So that's just something I wanted to share with you. Let's see. Then so that's the using a apostrophe before the number for both Excel and TFS. So let me check my slides real quick and make sure that I have told you everything that I wanted to. Oh, One of the things I think is important that it kind of came up last time is when you're pulling these expenditures, make sure that Black Mountain's project beginning and end dates in the actual Black Mountain software, if that's what you use, that you've removed the dates. Often I have had cash issues and balancing issues because Black Mountain, if you have a strange date in your project management, it can throw these off. So I just wanted to say, watch the Black Mountain beginning and end dates in your project box, your little project code box. It can really be a problem, and it makes it hard to balance on cash. So also remember to do your cash request by the 25th of the month, so you can get paid on the 10th of the next month. And I think that let's see, we talked about filters, we added a new sheet, and we've sorted, we've talked about the apostrophe. So I think it's time to turn it back over to Rebecca. She's going to show you about some tricks from eGrants that will make this even easier. So Rebecca, take it away.
Perfect. If we could go back to, I think it's slide 12. It says notes on eGrants. That one right there. Perfect. Okay, so a couple of questions that are related to what we're talking about with tracking your cash requests and your amendments, etc. One question that I have gotten before is how to go back and see previous amendments in eGrants. When you create an amendment to your budget or to your grant application, eGrants actually does store the previous version, and all you have to do is in the eGrants Access Select page, which is the leftmost screenshot here, where you can see all of your grants for a fiscal year. There is a drop-down box next to each grant, and the drop-down box will display the most current application cycle. So in this zoomed in view here, the most current one would be Amendment 3, but you can see there's Amendment 3, 2, 1, and the original application. So if for whatever reason, let's say you're new to your position and you want to go back and see what was previously done, or let's say you were the person who made the amendment 6 months ago and you don't remember exactly what was changed, you can go back and view previous versions that way. So that's how you see previous amendments. Next slide. In eGrants, you can also print pages, and there are actually two different ways that you can print your application. There's kind of a simple, quick way, and then there is a way that takes longer, but it's a lot more thorough. So the simpler way, the quicker way, is if you want to print one page at a time. So let's say you are in your ESSER base budget page, and you just want to print everything that's in that budget page. There in the top right-hand side of your eGrants screen, there is a darker blue small text that says printer friendly. And when you click on printer friendly, it will open the page in a version that's a little bit easier for your printer to actually print so that it is understandable and clear to see. So you'll click printer friendly and then you'll hit Control P or Command P on your keyboard, which pulls up your computer's print function. And that is the quick and easy way to print a single page at a time. If you want to print the entire application, you could go through and do the printer-friendly version of every single page, and it would take you about an hour and a half, or you can have eGrants do it for you. So to print the entire application, there is a tab towards the top of your application that says Application Print. I think it's all the way on the right-hand side of the tabs. And so you'll click on Application Print. It will open up this tab, and you'll see a checkbox next to different pages in the grant. So this is the bottom rightmost screenshot on the slide right now. And what you'll do is you will check the box next to every grant page that you want to print. So for example, let's say you didn't want to print the page that says when it was submitted. So you would check every box except for that box. Or if you only wanted to print 6 different budget pages, you would check those different budget pages. Or you could just check all of them and eGrants will print all of them. So after you check the boxes that you want, then you're going to click on the blue button that says Request Print, and then you will receive an automated email from eGrants that says your request has been received, it's being processed, and the eGrants program every hour on the hour will create the print. And so right now it is 3:29. And so if I were to request a print right now, that print would be ready at 4 o'clock on the hour. So I would go back into eGrants to that exact same page where it says application print. And then on the hour, a hyperlink will display, and I can click on the hyperlink, and that will give me the ability to print the entire application. I know that it does seem kind of silly that you make the request and then it takes some time for eGrants to generate that print, but just think about the amount of information and the sheer number of pages in your application, and it still would save you time instead of going in and printing each page individually, just letting eGrants do it for you. So those are the two different ways that you can print out your eGrants application. Let's see. Yes, next page. So the other thing that Jolene pointed out is her auditor has asked for the GAN, the Grant Award Notification. And in order to find this, you will go back out to your eGrants Access Select page, and it's in the status column. When a application is approved, then the GAN will show up. And it's in these blue letters. I've circled them here in red, and you just click on that, and it is a hyperlink. It'll open up a page that you can then print out and staple to your Manila folder so that you've got it for your auditor when they need it. And again, that's on the eGrants Access Select page. You do need to make sure that you are in the correct fiscal year so that you find the grant that you're looking for. Next slide. Another resource, this is not in eGrants, this is on our OPI website. We generate monthly reports that may be helpful or useful to you as you are doing your checks and balances, as you are just reporting to different people. Maybe your superintendent asked, or your board of trustees wants a status update. At the end of every month, OPI generates a status report. There is a district report and a trustee report, and they just take slightly different views. But essentially, what this report shows is your overall grant award for all three of the grants, ESSER 1, 2, and 3, and then how much has been spent out of each of those grants and what is remaining in each of those grants. And so circled at the bottom of your screen here, it shows the district and trustee status reports from August. Those reports were run at the end of August, so they are looking back at the month of August. And up on the website now, you'll see the September reports, which were run at the end of September, and they look back from the end of September. And then coming up on the end of October here, you'll have new reports that anchor on the month of October. Next slide, please. If you go to the OPI website, opi.mt.gov, we have an ESSER webpage. There's a big blue button that says ESSER. It's circled here on the bottom of your screen. And when you click on that, it will take you to the ESSER website. And we have just tons of resources for you folks. Everything having to do with ESSER, going all the way back to the beginning with the original Montana State ESSER plan. All of our trainings are being recorded and posted on that website. Any templates or resources that we come up with are all posted to that website. And we actually did just redesign that website a little bit. We got a lot of feedback saying, I know you have this resource, I can't find it because your website is so hard to navigate. So we took that feedback into account. We made a few edits on the website, made it a lot easier to navigate, hopefully. And if you have any questions, you're going through the website and you really just can't find something, please just reach out. I'd be more than happy to show you where it is or give you a direct link to it. Next slide, please. And at this point, we are done presenting new information, and we're going to open up the floor to you folks. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to put them in the chat. And at this point, if you have somewhere you need to be, it is 3:30 on an afternoon. Feel free to leave. You can always hop back in if you would like to. And if you think of a question, like let's say you're at the grocery store tonight and you're like, I should have asked Jolene this one thing while she was sharing on the screen, our contact